The global digital divide. So what is the digital divide? The digital divide is the gap between those who have access to technology and those who do not, as explained by Van Dijk. Technology is embedded in everyday life and is very beneficial to education. Krendler and Winnis-Flurry show the use of technology in education improves students' learning, understanding and performance. According to Street, new literacy studies is defined as both language and literacy being understood as social practices, rather than a skill learned in school. Language and literacy naturally happen in everyday life. The context of literacy, as well as their different meanings for different cultural groups, has to be taken into account. Literacy is now seen as a social practice. Street explores how literacy takes place in different places and environments, understood as domains, such as a school domain that will have its own social beliefs and behaviours, understood as literacy practices. Literacy events and practices are closely related. Powell and Roswell express that a literacy event is the observed event, where literacy takes place, and literacy practices is the engagement with the literacy. Literary practices within a school domain can be seen within literacy events. For example, the literacy event of doing homework and then the literacy practice is the process of reading and then writing down the answers. Powell and Roswell state there are two models of literacy studies: autonomous, which is the literacy independent to social practice, and ideological, where literacy relates to the world's social practices. Autonomous is often found in school domains, where literacy skill can be measured and is separate to social practices, such as exams, whereas ideological can be found in the digital domain, where a more multimodal approach, it is connected to the social and cultural practices, like texting a friend. COVID-19 led to the school domain turning into a digital domain. The literacy practice and events within the school domain all occurred online. Literacy events such as reading textbooks and writing assignments. There are new types of literacy, not just print literacy, such as digital literacies. Digital literacies has occurred due to globalization and the technology used for communication, reading and writing. Least developed countries, LDCs, are impacted more by the digital divide, but to grow and develop they need an educated population, but lack the technological accessibility, which means LDCs' education systems are negatively impacted. During the COVID-19 lockdown, when face-to-face teaching could not occur, LDCs' education systems were disproportionately impacted as students were unable to access education, furthering the digital divide. Many countries were immensely affected by COVID-19, and 1.6 billion students globally had their education disrupted. LDCs were massively impacted, creating a bigger gap in the digital divide. For example, Nigeria has only 42% of the country with internet access, and 28% of students were unable to access their education. This disparity of skills, technology and accessibility led to many students unable to access lectures, assignments and reading for their learning. Students in Nigeria can be seen as being digitally illiterate, as they are unable to participate in digital literacy events and practices, such as online lessons, emailing teachers and electronically talking to their classmates. Technologically advanced countries were able to maintain, improve and advance the use of technology in their classroom. Kang explains how Japan's move to online learning due to the COVID-19 lockdown accelerated using technology within education. The development of new educational technologies, such as learning management systems, allow students to submit assignments, promote easy communication between teachers, parents and students, and for teachers to be able to track attendance. Students are then surrounded by digital literacy events and practices as they engage with these new technologies and can be online and write their assignments and read the different texts relevant to their learning. COVID-19 lockdown made online learning the norm, and students who had their identity developed through age, gender, race or class were able to change their identities or develop new identities. Identities can influence literacy. Different literacy practices can inform identities. Oztech 2013 discussed how people have many different identities depending on the situation or context. Students who spend a lot of time online and participating in digital literacy practices will have a different digital identity to those who have not had the same experience. There is a need to understand the digital literacy practices that an individual does in order to understand their identity. Students had to create a digital identity with online learning. This can be formed in many ways: how you interact with others, portray yourself, as well as how others interact with you. Online learning meant that students were required to do everything online, and those who don't have access or are inexperienced with technology will put them at a disadvantage to students with that experience.